Okay, so this is going to be step one in what will hopefully be a series of how to use the PreSonus Studio One version 5 show page that they added. So if you're anything like me, you do a lot of recording of your own music at home, and maybe you end up having to play most of the parts of the song. So maybe you record the guitar part, you record the vocals, you record the bass part, you record the drums, and some of those maybe you even use like virtual instruments. And what if you want to do a live stream or a live show where you play those songs and have them be as close to those original recordings as possible? Is that possible? And how difficult is it to do? Well, we're going to take a look at that. Today, the first topic is going to be just starting from a blank show page. We're going to go ahead and start adding songs to it, and then we will start by adding our combined drum track. So let's take a look and dive right in. Okay, and all right, so here we are on a song that I created a while back called Presently. Let's go ahead and just give it a quick listen and make sure that it is what we expect and it sounds good to start with. Got your eyes on pride. Okay, I can hear some weird like clipping and stuff going on here, which is not to be unexpected. I think the last time I was in Studio One, I was tracking, which means I had my block size set really small for really low latency. But that taxes my CPU and can cause some dropouts in some scenarios. So let's increase my buffer size or my block size, and that will give me a lot more processing power. Let's make sure that went through. Good. And so now when I play, got your eyes on prize, looking forward. So what we want to do though is be able to play along with these drums. Like I want to do like a live stream where I'm playing the guitar part of the song and maybe singing the vocals, but like any backing vocals or any backing guitar parts or like the piano part and the drums, I want all that to be there and be ready to go. So let's try to take a look at that. Again, this is what the song sounds like. You got your eyes on pride. All right. And we're going to switch views. I'm going to show you, I got this big giant touch screen that you may see part of in our video, and that's where I keep my PreSonus Studio One mixer, which you will see now. And we're going to take a look at all of the drums tracks, which you'll see are in this kind of nice shade of pink color. Let's take a look at how they are routed. So this track, all the way through that track, are routed to the all drums bus directly. Some of them though, specifically basically any of them that are not muted, have one or more sends on them, and they're going, looks like, to just the reverb. In fact, none of them are going to the FX delay. So we have a send from our bus, which is using the pre-fader mode here. So pre-fader mode is on, and the send level has been set to 0 dB, which, by the way, I think it starts at like -6 or something like that. If you hold down Control though and just click that, it'll jump right to 0, which is just a handy little workflow tip to help you get going nice and fast. Okay, so that being said, my FX tracks are currently hidden. Let's show those. There we go. And so here you can see the delay track that I was mentioning earlier, but none of my channels are actually sending anything to them. There are sends that you can see here, but if we take a close look over here, we see that all the sends on each of these channels that would have been going to that delay are currently bypassed or disabled. So, in effect, nothing going to that delay. And in fact, if we just play one more time, we'll be able to verify that. So that track never moved. We know nothing's going there. But we do know that stuff's going over to our all drums track. And I think that we also had delay for our reverb, rather, for our drums track. And those are active. Those are being sent here. And then the output of my FX channel for my reverb also goes to my all drums track, meaning all drums is basically a complete summary bus of all drums. That's all the compression, all the miking, all the panning, everything that happened in the Superior Drums mixer, which is here. I'll just drag that down so we can see it. All that stuff that happened in the Superior Drum mixer, if anything, got carried into Studio One. Any of my bleed settings would be included there as well. And so, if I want to have my drums sound exactly like they did on my original recording in my live stream, what I'm going to want to do is basically make a mix down of my song that is only this all drums bus. Let's just make sure that there's nothing else complicated going on here. So where does our all drums bus get routed? It gets routed to all not vox, which is a pretty common mixing scenario that I have in my world. And that's this bus over here. All not vox is basically only getting a few tracks sent to him, and that would be my other all buses. Basically anything that's an all bus, like all bass or all guitars or all piano or all synths, just anything that's not vox or vocals would be sent to the all not vox bus. All not vox has a sibling bus called allvox, which is exactly what you think it is, all the vocal buses. And then those two get routed to a bus I call overdub. I essentially use this the way that a lot of people use a master out bus, but the advantage of using this overdub bus, which you'll notice is colored red, which is on purpose. I use it for overdubs and for recording. Specifically, what I'll do is I'll be able to make it so the routing of whatever track my vocalist or whoever is playing is recording onto is routed directly out to my main, which is the destination of my overdub bus. Because everything else is already routed to overdub, I can just turn down overdub by a few dB, like say 3 dB or 6 dB, and that way I can make it easy for the vocalist or instrumentalist to hear themselves, hear their performance, and do well in that performance because they can hear themselves without having so much of a chance of microphone bleed or blowing out their ears or making major changes to my overall mix. Just a super easy way to get up and tracking if you need to do an overdub or a quick addition to a song. Alright, so that being said though, I don't think anything of consequence is happening on that overdub bus, but we can make sure that's the case. So let's first, we need to start dropping everything that is not drums out of the, actually no, I take it back. First, let's go ahead and save our song. We are going to go ahead and add our song to our show, which we should have already open. And there it is, show demo. This will take a few minutes. Now the point of this, when you add a show to when you add a song to a show, basically it's a lot like adding a show to a project in Studio One. It's essentially doing a mix down or a master right now, a version of the song that it's sending over and connecting to the page. It's also going to add a item to the set list for this song based on the title of the song in Studio One. We get a few other kind of nice advantages though, which I will point out. Things like you'll notice this song in Studio One has a chord track specified, and we'll see that in the mixdown that comes over onto my show page, we will see those chords listed down below, which can be handy if from time to time you do, I don't know, forget what that next chord is supposed to be or something like that. Alright, so now sending individual parts for each of the parts in our song. So we had, of course, that drums part. What we're going to do to start that process is as we take a look through our, let me make sure that you guys can see my mixer. And you can. What we have is a few tracks that are currently muted. Because part of this process of sending individual parts to our show page is going to involve kind of muting tracks as we go, I find it easiest to go something like this. We're going to go in here. Actually, no, we're going to go up here. Let me switch views again up to the main Studio One song page window. Here we go. And we're going to find any muted track that was there when and muted when we first opened this one to start the process of moving to the show page, and we will disable those tracks. This will keep us from getting confused later. Okay, yeah, so none of those tracks that we just disabled were actually being audible in the song. Let's just validate that one more time. Yeah, still sounds basically like it did before. So now let's start the process of making a dedicated drums only output. So here we go on our mixer view. We're going to find the allvox bus. It's the first one to start with. Let's mute that. We don't need it. And we'll make sure. Yep. Okay, good. So we can't hear those. That's exactly what we want. It looks like we had a bus over here called busing background vocals, but that got routed to allvox. So we've basically already eliminated that. We have a bunch of vox tracks here, over here to the blue. Then we get to synth. Okay. So all synth. We don't want to hear synths in our dedicated backing player in our show for drums. And it's a good bet we don't want to hear that piano either. Guitars are right out. And I'm not even sure if there is a bass player on this particular song. But, alright, so now the only thing that should be left going over to our all not vox bus right here is our drums. Perfect. All right. So what we're going to do now that we have that all set up is now we're going to go and we're going to do a mix down, not exporting stems. The important reason that we are doing a mix down is that let's see, you guys can see my mixer, and I'll show you one more time how to do the export mix down first, in a second rather, but right now in my mixer, you'll notice here on all my drums track, I got some removed to a reverb, which causes latency. I've got some compressors and channel strips and effects on various drums that are being output from my virtual instrument, and I don't want to run all that when I'm in my show. So what I want is basically an audio extract of what this drums track sounds like, all on its own with all these effects, including the reverb and all that. That is a mix down and not a stem. A stem bypasses those sorts of effects and is like a flat extract. So let me switch windows one more time back to main Studio One. There we go. Not sure why that got all small, but we'll make it a little bit bigger, make it easier for you guys to see. Okay, so here we'll go to Song, Export Mixdown. It's already going to send it over to a particular folder typically, but I'm going to go presently. I'm going to say Mixdown players for show. Give it its own folder. The format should be whatever the resolution and sample rate of the original recording, and typically I go with waves. I guess it just sounds better, but I guess it's up to you if you are concerned about space. Depending on if we have external hardware involved in our signal processing chain, we might need to use real-time processing. I do not. So I'm going to go ahead and just export this song between the start and end markers. And there is no need to import this one to a track, so let's go ahead and just hit OK. Ooh, and I forgot to rename my my Mixdown file name here, so I will have to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be named Guitar Rhythm Mixdown, and that's probably going to cause me a bit of confusion in a minute. So let's be patient. We'll wait for this Mixdown to finish, and then we can go ahead and add it as an audio backing player in our show page. Alright, handily, Studio One has opened up the folder where it exported that Mixdown to, so let's give it a rename right now. So presently, Mixdown for drums player. Alright, now drag that a little bit to the left here just so we can still see it. And we'll go over here to our show page in Studio One. And over here in our show page in Studio One, we'll click Add Player. This is a backing track kind of player. Player name is Drums. Like I said, I like to use purple as my drums color, but that's really just a matter of personal preference. Depending on how complex you want to run your live show, you may want to map things to outputs or have presets. But for me, because I know that I just went through the trouble of making sure that the exported audio for my drum tracks is going to sound like it did on that original song, I'm not going to plan on using any presets, which is going to save me a little bit of overhead. So let me hit OK. I'll remove this instrument, Superior Drummer, from my actual show, since it's just going to take up processing power. And look at my CPU performance meter down here. It's basically at nothing, right? Which is really important. It does matter. Let me go ahead and drag my audio over here. Let's see if we have time for one more part. I think we do. We're going to close our little pop-up here for our limiter plugin, because we don't need that right now. And we're going to move on. So we had our all drums unmuted. Let's go ahead and mute that now, since we have now exported our drums. And we'll verify that we, in fact, good. We hear silence. That's exactly what we wanted to hear. Let's take a look at our all guitars bus, which is both guitar rhythm and guitar lead. What do we got in there? I don't remember all that well off the top of my head. You guys can see my mixer. Switch up there. Okay, and you guys can see my main view. Excellent. Hit play. Hit play here. Okay, so yeah, I mean, as I listen to that, I'm not sure that we need two different exports for those. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to show you my main window. We will now do an export of our song. So export, mix down. This one is guitar combined, mix down. And using the same options as before, go ahead and hit OK. Wonderful. All right. So there are our files that we just got exported. Guitar combined. We'll go back to my back. Excellent. And we will now add a player. We'll call this guitar backing. I always use green, or typically like to use green for my guitars. And say I only need one of those, so I'll say OK. I'll drag my song, my exported file there. There we go. Now that we will go back to my song. Guitars. So we'll find our So we're done with our guitars. We'll find our all guitars bus. We'll mute it. Find all piano. Unmute it. What do we got there? Alright, well, at least we're sure that that's all we got there. So let's go export mix down. We're going to call this piano mix down. Same options as before. And hit OK. Alright, and back here on my show page. Back here on my song page. And you hear me? Cool. We will now add another backing part. Piano. I feel like pianos should be gray. I don't know why. So that's what color we're going to use. There's our piano file. We'll drag it on. Alright, and you can hear me. Great. We are ready to mute piano. Synths. So I muted piano here. I'm going to now unmute my all synths bus. Make sure that that's what I think it is. Let's take a look. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of like a pad, or providing some space or ambience, I guess, to the mix. So I think that is definitely what we want, and we're hearing anything else in there. So we'll go and show you my song page. We'll go up here, we will say song, export mix down, synth, mix down, same options as before. Excellent. That is done. We'll and we will add another player. This will be for synths. And let's stay consistent with the color. I think we use something like a pink or something there. There we go. Drag that on there. If we zoom in our audio, we can see it a little bit better too, which makes it easier. Okay. Okay, so that was basically everything that was rooted to all non-Vox. Which brings us to the more complex of the export parts. So our vocal tracks, if we take a look at our main song here, I'll try and zoom in and make the most of the screen. They start here and they progress, and it's mostly one vocal track, right? At one part, the main vocal stops singing and this other part comes in. This is probably because I had some sort of overlapping going on. So let's see what the main vocal was doing right before here, which means that we need to we'll leave all not Vox unmuted for now, and actually we'll go back through and start to unmute all those buses. And now if I unmute my all Vox bus, now this is back to the whole song. Okay, so
you got your eyes on the prize. Looking for words made you blind. But you get to live your present. Just one question.
okay, so I'm not sure if everyone caught that, but I think what we hear is that basically at this point, this part I'm not sure what happened there, but okay, I think we're back in a spot where we can actually proceed. Okay, so basically at this point in the song, this part of the what had been the main vocal track might as well be a backing vocal track. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this track, because any sort of settings that we had wanted to be on these lines, we want to be able to duplicate those. So we'll just now drag those down. And basically now what we're left with is this one, and this one should be exported as a single mixdown as our main vocal track, which for the most part is going to be inaudible or almost entirely muted during our live streams. But it might be nice to know, oh, what was I supposed to be singing at this part in the song if we ever screw up. So it's a good idea to go ahead and export those, and we can do that. Need to make sure I wasn't missing an important call. So let's start by doing that. So we're going to start by, I'll switch back to my mixer view here so you guys can see. And we'll mute everything that's not Vox, right? And then finally, if we mute that,
threatened by eternity, you forget to live here presently. Threatened by eternity, you forget to live here present.
cool. And now that we've muted that part that we consider basically to be a backing vocal, we can go ahead and export this part of our song,
On the prop.
which is just basically our main vocal. We'll say song. Switch windows again so you guys can see my main studio one. So this is what I was talking about here. We had this, and that's the part. That's the part that I want excluded as my main backing track, so I can make sure to hear that when I'm on my show and not have to sing that part myself. Hopefully that makes sense. Now let's go song. We will do export mixdown. We will say main vocals mixdown. Again, all same options. And finally, we'll do the inverse. So now we'll unmute that, and we'll mute our 3 tracks that comprise our main vocals line. We'll say export mixdown. Backing Vox this time, mixdown. All the rest of them are the same options. We'll export that. Okay, so now that the audio has been exported from our 2 main and backing vocal tracks is done, we can go ahead and switch over to our show page. We will add our 2 players. So backing Vox. I'm feeling blue for backing Vox today. I don't know why. And main Vox. And we'll go with like a nice darker blue for the main Vox. There we go. Okay, so backing Vox, click and drag. As you can see, it's silent for most of it. Main Vox, click and drag. There we go. All right, so those all look pretty good. You'll notice, of course, the levels of my various stems are not, or mixdowns are not equal, but that's kind of what you would expect, right? This was like a pad here, a synth pad, and so obviously this kind of in the background to provide some ambiance, and we wouldn't expect it to be as loud as, for instance, our guitar rhythm and lead track is, or our main piano rhythm track is. So that makes perfect sense to me, but let's take a look to see how things actually sound if we just give the song a play here from our show page. Hopefully it will sound good.
You got your eye.
Of course, I will need to actually have an audio source in my OBS that is set up to capture Studio One. So let me go and grab that real fast.